Good morning and welcome to Eurosport here at a wet Le Mans 24 hours. Not just wet, but becoming very, very wet. The umbrellas are up. We can hardly see out of the commentary cabin now. Rain streaking down it. And wet tires order of the day as Audi and all the rest of the racers prepare for 45 minutes of just getting used to the track. They've not had any wet running yet. As we talk over the top of the race director, this might happen occasionally, but there we are. They're lining up, ready to go out. The Corvettes, the GTs, the prototypes, all the fun of the fair. I'm Mark Cole, alongside me, Liz Halliday. We're going to be bringing you all the coverage over the next 24 hours. Liz, we've had no wet running at Le Mans over the last 4 days. What?
Warmup has started. This will be a 45-minute session.
What will everyone be looking for this morning?
Well, in some ways, it's some of the drivers will find this a bit nerve-wracking because they've had all dry running up until this point. However, we are forecasted to have a fairly wet day today. So, in fact, this could be a good opportunity to get the cars out in the wet running and just get settled into that.
There we are then, the view from above.
Whoa,
and
and somebody's straight over the top of the Dunlop chicane already.
On your first out lap of the weekend, do you not take things just a little bit more carefully than that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the track is so wet. You can see the huge plumes of water coming off this prototype car. Now, in the wet, especially at Le Mans, anything painted, like the curbing and some of that extra runoff, is going to be even more slippery. It's going to feel like ice, really. So I think that's where we saw this car just getting a little bit on the curbing. Straight away, he was off to the right on the Dunlop chicane.
Yeah, that's the Oak Racing. Pescarolo, Olivier Pla will be starting that car today. In fact, we've already got all the starter lists, and we can tell you that from pole position, Andre Lotterer of Audi Sport Team US will be starting that #1 car, one of the hybrids. They finally got there late on Thursday night. Audi put a hybrid on pole, which is what they wanted, rather than the non-hybrid Ultra. But I think the big story probably of that same night, Thursday night final qualifying, was the performance of Toyota, Liz, against all odds.
Yeah, I think they were really, really happy with that. They managed to move the car up to 3rd place overall for the start. That's a pretty good place for them to be, I think. It's been a really fast program. They've thrown things together a year earlier than they really wanted to. They were not planning to be at Le Mans until 2013. So I think that's a really good start for them and should make for an exciting start to this race.
The man who set that time was Britain's Anthony Davidson. He was just sent out for a banzai lap, and my goodness, he pulled it off. Absolutely stunning. I mean, the big story is hybrids this year, Liz, up front, but halfway down through the field we've got another even bigger story perhaps, which is the Nissan Delta Wing, perhaps the strangest ever looking car to come to Le Mans since the Cadillac, you remember, of 1952, that strange bathtub.
Yeah, this is a very strange car indeed. It looks like something you'd see in a Batman movie more than at Le Mans, perhaps. And of course, this is the first year that they have been able to fill that Garage 56. This is an unclassified car. It will not be able to race. And it is sort of in the pursuit of new technologies in motorsport and at Le Mans. I'm interested to see is how is this car going to be in the wet? I have heard that it's not brilliant, and already we've seen a car go straight on there at a corner.
Well, you talk about the wet. I mean, I was talking to Marino Franchitti, who's driving the car, and he said, well, we did all our testing in England at Snetterton, so what does that tell you about wet weather running?
Yeah, no, I did hear that. I was speaking to Duncan Dayton, who owns Highcroft Racing, and he said, yes, we did a lot of testing at Snetterton, and I said, oh, what was it like in the wet? He said, well, you know, interesting. That's sort of where we're at.
So look at these conditions. These people just can't turn in. You can't pull the front end in, can you? If you've just missed your braking point like that. That's the third drive of the AF Course cars. That's the Pro-Am. Sorry, Pro-Am, GT-Am. We must stop calling it Pro-Am.
I know, it's tempting, isn't it?
GT Pro, GT-Am, the two GT classes. One for all professional drivers, the other partly crewed by amateur drivers. Here we're going on the run up to Indianapolis, this really, really fast part of the track.
You can see how poor the visibility is here. Not just on its own, the visibility is bad, and if you can imagine what it's like if you're running behind one of these cars with these huge plumes of water coming off the back, you won't be able to see anything at all.
You can't even hook it into the apex there, can he? But
no, quite often that's the better thing to do in the wet, is to sort of look for the grip on the track more than taking your traditional line. So I think we'll see that with a lot of the drivers, just looking for where there's that little bit more abrasiveness on the circuit, getting any grip they can out of these tires.
Yeah, that's the #4 car we were just watching through Indianapolis. Mike Rockenfeller on board, and of course this is something of a a return for him, because that is where last year he had that massive accident during the night, and very lucky to survive that.
And Mike, in fact, mainly focusing on his DTM championship this year. I believe this is the only race he's doing with the prototype car. But yeah, very pleased to see him back here at Le Mans. I saw him on Thursday night after the warm-up. He seemed very relaxed, feeling really good about the upcoming race, and just said, well, we're not fussed where we qualify. It's 24 hours. Seemed very relaxed, ready to go.
Benoit Trullier then on board the #1 car, last year's winning car. Andre Lotterer will be starting his car. Dindo Keller will be sharing his car, the #2 car, with Tom Christensen and Alan McNish. We were talking before we came on air, Liz, we asked you who you thought the wet masters were, and Alan McNish was top of your list.
Alan McNish is one of the best wet drivers that I've seen at Le Mans in the past. But really, I also feel that they're all good drivers. At the top of the field, every one of these guys can really drive in the wet, or they wouldn't be driving for Audi, frankly, or for Toyota. So, we're just watching somebody straight over the grass and the gravel. Oh, what a mess. And that's going to make these conditions even trickier.
That is Benoit Trullier, who we were just following in the #1 car, the pole car.
It was in fact right in front of us as well.
There we are, there's the view from above. We're down there just to the right of the main control tower. In comes the #12. Rebellion, Lotus, Lola, Neil Jani on board, and it's Neil who did such a good job the other night trying to dislodge Danny Watts in the Stracker car from the top of the privateer petrol-driven division.
Yeah, what a fight we had in that group, and a fantastic result for Stracker Racing. And I think they're going to be fighting for those quote-unquote petrol honours here. It's their first time in LMP1. They've moved up from very, very strong results in LMP2, but I think they'll be ones to watch. And if Audi were challengeable, which I don't believe they are, I think they would be the ones to do it. There's the Delta Wing just taking on the wet. Interesting to see the difference in the way the water comes off of that. It doesn't really disperse, if you can see, like it does in the other cars. It just sort of sits there, and I think that's what makes it so difficult for them with the front wheels.
Yeah, and as you said, there's during qualifying, where's the front splitter and where's the rear wing?
It's, yeah, the aerodynamics of this car are all underneath the vehicle. You can actually see some of the scoops underneath there just on that closer up view. It's a very interesting machine, and it does seem to be going really quite fast in the wet right now, I have to say.
I mean, it's captured everyone's imagination, hasn't it? The fans who are coming here just say, wow, isn't this great? And full marks to Nissan for putting all their power behind it. A lot of power coming from a 1.6 Nissan Juke engine, which they've got on board. You don't need a bigger engine. A 1.6 turbo is going to carry this car, which only weighs 500 kilos odd. It's going to carry it at the same speed as most of its brothers and sister prototypes.
Yeah, and that was a big thing they wanted to do, is sort of bring that to motorsport, where you could have an engine that you could have in your road car that would be able to power a race car that can do these sort of speeds. And I think they're looking for that sort of new technology and finding ways to be a bit more conservative.
In the garage then, one of the Toyotas, the #7 car, which Alexander Wirtz is running on board at the moment. Liz, we just saw that huge slot over the front wheels. Tell us why they're there this year.
Yeah, this is a new thing this year. A lot of the reasoning behind that is the old louvers we used to have. We'll just listen to the race director. There's a slow car in the entrance to pit lane at the moment. We'll tell you more about that when we see it. But yeah, the louvers we used to have would just tear up from tire pickup and various debris, and also I think they've now raised the rear sides. You can see how much higher they are in this car, and that's to go along with that aero fin. Oh, we've got a stop car on track. That's the 29 car that has had so much trouble.
This is one that's had all the problem, hasn't it, with the Japanese driver on board. This is Marc Rostan. He's multiple French GT champion, but even conditions on his home track, he comes from Le Mans, they're just proving too much.
Yeah, we were questioning if they were actually going to be able to run.
Well, the problem was, and we're still waiting to hear, come Thursday night, Marc Rostan and Jean-Denis Delatraz hadn't qualified the car.
Look at this.
This is our pole P2 car, the ADR Delta. That's not the right place to be, is it?
No, this is just a disaster right now. And part of the trouble is, this is the first set of cars that have been out on this track overnight. We've had dry running for a while, so all the oil and everything in the track has come lifted to the surface a bit. This is actually the toughest time to be out on a track. So I think everybody's going to need to rein it in a little bit. Do as much as you need to do to know the car's okay, and put it back into the garage. Straight on there for the Delta Wing. Oh, just narrowly missed it.
Yeah, we're starting to get cars stopped all around the circuit, and the rain has got heavier since we came here.
Red flag situation we can hear there.
We have a red flag situation.
That's quite unusual to have warm-up stopped by red flag, but they just need to recover some of these cars, don't they? So as we said, this is the Alan Docking Racing ADR Delta, which has run out at Silverstone, had such a good performance at Spa. Red flag is out, as we say, and we got the car beached on the Ford chicane right in front of us, that 29 Gulf Middle East Racing entry, and in comes the number 4 car then, Mike Rockenfeller coming back in safely, as will be everybody else. What happens now, presumably because such a tight time table here, they won't add any time to the warm-up, will they? Just recover the cars and...
No, I wouldn't expect them to. I think they'll just keep the clock running, but bring the cars in. I would say most of them will either just line up or quickly get checked over in front of their pit boxes. But I mean, the morning warm-up, you just want to be so careful. You want to get around, make sure all the mechanics are working, mechanical parts of the car are working. A lot of teams have done changes overnight, done their engine change yesterday. So really, it's just about making sure your car is dialed in and ready to run. I don't think anyone should be out here trying to make a time in these conditions. Just watching the Delta Wing there on its way back to the pits. A good opportunity to take a look at how that car disperses the water. It is just so different from the other cars. There's no plume coming off the back. It sort of is a flatter, level bit of dispersion. But it does seem to be such a fast car in the wet. I'm really impressed by that. And I'll be looking forward to seeing what it can do in the race if we have the wet conditions, Mark.
Yep, I think this is, everyone's watching that intently, aren't they? I mean, this could be the future. It could just be a one-off. We will wait and see. IndyCar didn't have the courage to take this on as their preferred chassis, but perhaps courage is the wrong word, but they did. Look at this, great shots. Our high-speed slow-mo cameras all around the circuit. Water standing everywhere now, isn't it?
Oh, it's just horrible conditions. I do feel for these guys. It's not a nice time to be out there, especially in a prototype car. And if you look, the main cars that have been off the circuit now have been the prototypes.
Yep. Yeah, at least in the GT car, you know, you've got a roof over your head, and some of the prototypes you have. But you've got more feel in a GT car in these conditions, probably. Yeah,
and just a bit more even, you know, the weight's distributed in a different way. You've got a bit more body roll on the car, so actually that makes it a bit easier. Such a messy condition here. We're on red flag at Le Mans. We're going to a quick break. Stay with us for more action.
Welcome back to Le Mans. We're under a red flag situation and we haven't even got through the warm-up yet. That is how bad conditions are here this morning in West France. The rain forecast yesterday has arrived with a vengeance, and Liz, I really feel for the thousands upon thousands of people out here in the campsite, so many of them British.
Oh yeah, we were on our way in this morning looking at the mud and thinking, yeah, I really don't want to be in a tent right now. But you know, to any of you that have been here to Le Mans and camped out, then yeah, I'm very impressed, because I'm quite glad to be in a dry commentary box right now.
And if you're sitting at home, of course, it's what, 8:15 in the morning. I hope you've got a nice cup of tea or coffee with you, and you can enjoy our coverage for the next 30 minutes. The reason we've got the red flag, we've had 2 cars off in dangerous situations. Here's one of them. This is the number 29 Gulf Middle East Lola, which was spun here by Mark Rostan, and the other car is up at the Dunlop curves where Jan Charouz put off the Irish entered ADR Delta car, the one that Alan Docking runs out of his Silverstone workshops. That is our pole position car in P2, which John Martin set, but so much here, and look at this. This is not one of the factory Corvettes. It might look like it. This is actually the Labra entry, and these are last year's factory cars, of course.
Yes, they are, and I suppose one of the good things they've got, we'll just listen to this. Yeah, it's just the race director saying the pit lane will open on a very short notice. I think as soon as they've got that track cleared, they're going to try and get everybody out again to make up for the very minimal running they've got this morning. Part of the problem that's holding this up, we can see it right in front of us, is the number 29 car is actually being towed back into pit lane. So I'm guessing that spin, they've actually had something fail in the car, or it's stalled and they can't restart with the starter motor or something.
Yeah, they've got a rear lift on it, haven't they?
Yeah, so something has probably broken in that car, yeah, which is after so much work to get it going again. Right, really unfortunate.
We're joined at the moment by Neville Hay. Neville, of course, doyen of commentators here at Le Mans. He's going to be taking you through the graveyard watch on Sunday morning. But before that, Neville...
We are about to start. The opening of the pit exit will be on a short call. It will be on a short call.
Right, you are going to get these race director announcements throughout the race. We're not given warning, so if we're mid-sentence, we won't stop talking. But they're making a right mess of this. They've now managed to back it into the tyre wall in the pit lane.
Oh, my goodness.
It's the rear end that's locked up on it, Mark. It's just solid.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what caused his spin. I don't think it was driver error or anything like that. It just locked up solid.
Right, so Neville, we just mentioned about you doing the graveyard watch right through the midnight until 6 European time, local time here. But first of all, you and Chris Parsons will be handling the Group C Legends race, which follows the warm-up. So
yes, we are.
What's the prognosis for that in the wet?
Well, I think it's not dissimilar to what we're seeing now, because even in the 80s, when we'd got cars like the Porsche 956, 962 and the Mercedes, primarily circuits like Le Mans were flat. There was little or no camber, which was, of course, the case years ago. And that way, the rain used to run off. It doesn't anymore, so you can actually end up with an awful lot of rain on the track, puddles and all sorts of things. The big thing, of course, this year is that last year everyone was whinging about the fact that the Mulsanne had got tramlines in it. It's lovely and smooth. I think Derek Bell saw it, said, oh, it's just like I remember it. Well, of course it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and of course the other point, I mean, the big difference over the last 20 years.
29 should take some way of bringing the car back to the pit entry. The rear axle is blocked. Find some way of picking up the car. We are having troubles in removing the car in one piece.
Right, so just to be clear, these race director announcements are not just for our benefit, they're actually to all the teams. All the teams get these messages. Under the WEC this year, it's broadcast to everyone, press and everyone. So much the same as the team messages we get in Formula One coverage. But look at this, the exasperation of the ACO marshals. Can you guys not get this right? You're holding everything up. Sorry, back to Group C, Neville. The track, of course, has changed in as much as a lot of the track is now privately owned.
Yeah.
And it's only really the Mulsanne and Indianapolis sections and the bit up to Porsche curbs that
that
still public
has made
roads.
a difference. That has made a difference. But the other thing is, of course, that everybody is sort of looking at the Mercedes and saying, wow, that car is just fantastic.
Please inform your driver, pit entry is partially blocked.
They've recovered Jan Charuz's car. Here it comes down the hill. He's taking it very gingerly.
It looked like he was actually trying to get a bit of the gravel out of it by shaking it back and forth and probably pressing on the brakes a few times. I hope he's wasn't on the racing line while he's dropping the gravel out of it.
Great for everybody else. Neville, Group C race, fantastic entry. We got Gareth Evans on pole position in the Mercedes, but how are these cars haven't had any wet running here?
Well, they're in the same position as everybody else. I suspect that what they might have to do is to start it behind a pace car.
Because they can't add anything, can they? Because they've got 45 minutes, which is the limit for the Group C1 cars on fuel. 10
laps or 45 minutes, and it's very marginal for some of these cars. Strangely enough, the American cars are much better off because they've got 120 litres. The European cars have got 100 litres, so they are really marginal.
So the 29 car eventually making it
oh, what a mess.
Behind the wall.
This team has had so much trouble, well, at every race they've done this year, really, and certainly at this race.
Pit exit will open at 0920.
So at 0920.
So that's just under a minute away. So not long. It looks like they've managed to pull this car far enough away.
Car 25, inform your driver, pit exit will be opening in 40 seconds. We need him to pick up some speed and come into the pits.
So you're just listening to them saying for the number 25 car to pick up a bit of speed and get back into the pits before they turn everybody back out on the green flag.
If you're just joining us, we're under red here at Le Mans during the warm-up. Giving 15 seconds now to start. One problem, Liz, we've got the Jan Charuz car, the number 25 the ADR Delta car out on track at the moment, and I suppose they're a bit loath to release people while that car's on the track, but they're going to go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think just listen. Okay, they're saying they've still got a car blocked, but I was under the impression they'd gotten that car back in, so...
well, he's presumably referring to the Charuz car.
Yes, but I was under the impression that car was still moving. It looked like he just spun, he hadn't hit anything, so he's probably just trying to get his tyres scrubbed off again and get moving, so we'll wait to see.
He has just gone through Sector 2, so he's...
Okay, so he is moving, albeit quite slowly, but we'll see where he is. We should be able to get some footage of that car any minute now as the front runners go back out onto the track.
So as you can see, persistent rain here at La Circuit Permanent de la Sarthe, and This rain started yesterday afternoon, had quite a fine morning Friday, but of course it started just in time for the drivers' parade.
Oh, it did, and we were seeing the tweets from some of the drivers saying it's definitely raining on my parade, and other funny comments like that. And I've done a drivers' parade in the wet, and it is not pleasant. But I do understand there were tons of people out there in force out there to support the drivers anyway, and thank you very much to all of those avid fans who braved the wet weather to go and cheer for these drivers.
So Marcel Fassler, last year's winner, now on board the #1 car. He's taken that over from Benoit Trullier, and look at this pictures. This is what Neville was just talking about, the resurfaced Mulsanne, the chute down there, which the tram lines have been.
You can see Mike Rockenfeller saying, "Oh, I don't really want to be heading behind another prototype in that wet," and straight over the chicane, straight away. This is just dreadful conditions.
Yeah, this is, of course, Marcel's first lap in the wet this year, and at this circuit, and he's got no reference point, has he?
No, and you can see how carefully he's getting on the gas there. That's the tricky part with these very high horsepower, really fast cars, is when you're in the wet, you can wheel spin up to about 4th gear. No doubt they've got amazing traction control, but in these conditions, there's only so much you can do.
Well, we're watching a couple of overnight developments. One is that the second of the Pescarola cars, the number 16 car, they have lost their third driver, Jean-Christophe Bouillon. He had that fairly big accident on Thursday night. The car turned sharp left. He was not happy with it. He complained he had some pains in his ribs and told Henri, "I don't want to drive." So that has left.
It has left Stuart Hall and Emmanuel Collard to do the whole of the 24 hours by themselves. Well, we had some information that perhaps this was happening a couple days ago, but we weren't 100% sure and weren't allowed to release the information. I have complete faith in those two drivers that they will do everything they can to drive their hearts out for as long as they can keep going. I mean, they're both fit and up for the challenge, really, and I wish them very, very well.
Yeah. And Henri said he's not worried for the two of them doing it. He said, "I always used to drive
in the
just
old
two
days.
cars in the Matra days when he won so many times." And those Matras, Neville, have been here this weekend. They are doing a demo again today.
Well, they're beautiful. The sound of the Matras was something that used to make me sort of think, hello, somebody else has just won. This is the sort of thing that Jackie Stewart would say in his own little way. There's just no taste at all.
Yeah.
And that's the Lotus there. He's trying to, I don't know why he's got the wheel spinning. Looks like he's trying to get out, which is not going to happen. What a mess.
May have had a touch, or they may have just spun in unison.
I think these are a situation where you've got to just tell your drivers to get out, very carefully get your way around for the information and bring it back in.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this is it's a bit intrusive, the race director, but at the moment there's nothing we can do. We're faced with the possibility of getting his announcements every 10 seconds throughout the whole 24 hours.
We will do our best to...
Car 97 is reported for not having headlights. Car 97 is reported for not having headlights.
Right, and...
That 97 car is the...
Looks as if they've got
the 97 car is the Aston Martin racing car of Darren Turner, Adrian Fernandez and Stefan Muka. And of course at Le Mans you must have headlights working and brake lights. It is a requirement and you have to go in and fix it. It's one of those annoying things where even if you have just one out and the car works perfectly, you could be in the pits for ages because it absolutely has to be working throughout the entire race.
Now we just saw down at that car that's stuck in the gravel down at Mulsanne. That was one of the Rebellion Lotuses, I think, and yes, it was indeed. Again, a big overnight announcement. Lotus is coming in as a factory team in LMP2 next year.
Stopped at Marshall Post 55, beginning of a fire. Marshals are handling it. Be advised, yellow flags on that sector.
It says car number 16 is stopped, and I think they've just said number 65 is the beginning of a fire.
A fire, yes.
So, oh goodness, this is so much drama for morning warm-up. I think more than I've ever seen before.
So they've recovered the 13 car. That's Andrea Bellicci on board the Rebellion Toyota, the team run by Bart Hayden. So that is not a official factory team. That's a branding exercise, as is the German Lotus team running LMP2. So what we're looking at is an all-new Lotus team for next year.
Only has one headlight. Or you fix it or you bring the car in. Car 24 is reported to have only one headlight.
So that's the 24 car of Olivier Pla that only has one headlight as well. Another car off.
Yeah, that's our
That's Emmanuel Collard.
Yeah.
And they're pushing that car back. That is not a good sign.
That's the one I think was saying they thought there might be a fire. And again,
the Krone racing car we see going straight on. again, it looks like Moles on corner, that is.
Yeah.
So that's, well, that's a notoriously...
This is the Pescarolo.
Oh, you can see the fire.
Yeah. That's the 16 car of Manu Collard. So it's not boding well, is it, when the race starts just 3 hours?
And they've had so much trouble with the dome being damaged as well.
Yeah. Conditions really getting very, very slippery now. This is Michel Frey in the Eureka going straight on. This is Mulsanne, Neville. It's really catching everyone out.
It really is looking pretty awful.
I understand the number 16 car had a fuel pump problem overnight, so perhaps that could be where the fire is coming from. It's what I mean. I've had problems with fuel pumps before, which have caused fires. So we'll hope that they can get that resolved before the race starts. Just so many cars going off this morning. I think the best bet for these drivers just to crawl around and get their time in and get them back to the pits as safely as possible.
And we're going to take a short break while we're riding with one of the Labra Corvettes. We'll be back in just a moment as Alain Manish pops in the fastest Sector 1 time of anyone. We're back live on Eurosport. We are live in the warm-up at Le Mans. It's anything but a warm-up this morning. It's gone quite cold. It is raining, as you can see. And we had the extraordinary situation a minute ago of the P2 Norma, the car of Francois Rosier, being the fastest car out there. Marcel Fassler in the number 1 Audi has just set the fastest time, but it's 4 minutes 10 seconds comparing with the pole time of 3 minutes 23, which was set on Thursday night.
Yeah, and Alain Manish just done another second fastest sector time, so sort of like what we were saying earlier, one of the best drivers around in the wet, but just dreadful conditions out there. We're seeing not that many P1 cars doing spectacular times at all, way down the list in 26th place as the rest of them.
These are the
straight over the curbing there.
The LED headlights. Of course, this is interesting because the slow motion capture camera is picking up the flashing LED. We don't see that with the eye, but we're really getting it with the motion camera.
It's quite disco and exciting, actually, in slow-mo.
But these are massively powerful headlights, aren't they, these LEDs?
They are, and I think there was a lot of concern about them blinding some of the drivers at night, but actually most of the drivers I've talked to, and I would agree with this myself, is it's great to know which LMP car is coming up behind you. And if you know it's an Audi, you know it's coming faster than everybody else, and that is very, very useful if you're being overtaken.
Audi's other big thing they're crowing about this year. Ooh, nice.
Very loose coming through there in the 17 Dome car.
Yeah. The other thing they're crowing about, the Audis have got rear view video mirrors, so they've got cameras looking behind them rather than mirrors. The drivers complained last year they didn't have enough rearward vision, so that's how they've got round it.
So it's essentially like having an actual rear view mirror in their car as well as the side mirrors they have.
Yeah. Same as a lot of cars have parking cameras now.
Yeah.
It does beg the question, why would an Audi need to look in his rear view mirrors?
Well, yes, especially without a Peugeot here this year. I don't think there's a lot to look at. The number 17 car going straight on there. This is the car that had that big accident late on Thursday night with Segiara in the car, and really good. They've got this car rebuilt. Pescarolo just having a very tough weekend, and it hasn't even started the race yet.
In fact, Sebastian Bourdais has already gone third fastest in that car, probably not helped by that. Off for a moment, there is a very familiar car, the IMSA Performance car, which won at Spa this year in the GT AM class. Raymond Narak, of course, a winner here of GT2 in the past at Le Mans, and again, there's something we discussed during qualifying. Why is a driver like Raymond Narak still considered to be an amateur?
Well, this is the interesting bit about these gold, silver, and platinum ratings. Another car here stopped on the track. I think he's just got his rear wheel stuck right in front of us, yes. Notoriously slippery part of this circuit, and I think his rear wheels are just stuck.
Yeah, it's Simon Dolan in the Zytek car. He's showing us Sam Hancock, another car that was knocked up the other night.
Yeah.
More or less the same place.
Yeah, just on the exit, actually. He's on the inside of the corner at the moment. He's rejoining the track, we hear from the race director. But yeah, Sam Hancock, holding his hands up and saying he just got a little bit hot in that exit of that corner and lost it and touched the barrier. But the boys have rebuilt the car. They've got it up and running, and I think they're now just focusing on the race, and Sam is more than up to the job of winning this class.
There's a car to gladden the hearts of British enthusiasts, the most beautiful Aston Martin Vantage, the V12 run one, isn't it, of course, rather than the V8s they run in GT3, and this car looking absolutely gorgeous in its Gulf colours.
Another car spinning.
Momentarily, yellow flags at
Just
no
seems to be the theme at the moment. Cars off everywhere. This is the 28 car, is it? Yeah, 28 car, the other Gulf car. We've seen the 29 car with that locked rear axle that they've already pulled into the pits after much trouble. But interestingly, what is amazing in these wet conditions is what a leveler it is. Because at the moment, in 10th place overall is a GTE amateur car, in fact, of Alan Simonson in the 99 car. And really, this is the only time at Le Mans you will see the cars up quite so far up the running, just based on time.
Yeah, I hope someone from the team is going to photograph the stream while that's up there. That's something
especially
for
on time only.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Excellent. But as Neville Hay was saying to us just a couple of minutes ago, one of the problems here is that the track is no longer cambered like it was in the old days.
It's no longer cambered. The other thing that interests me, and Liz, you might like to sort of make a comment on this, it seems to me that the diesel cars do have much more torque. And it doesn't come in a great rush as it does with the petrol cars, and that would theoretically make them easier to drive in conditions like this.
Yes, I would have thought definitely accelerating out of the corners, that will be a bonus to them. The turbocharged cars are extremely difficult to drive in the wet. That's the sort of car we had when I was here, and you've got to just watch how much throttle you give the car all the way up through the gears in these conditions. So definitely having a lower down torque without that boost of turbo coming in will be a bonus to anybody in that situation.
You're looking for third when perhaps you might use second, and basically to try and a little bit mitigate it that way, but otherwise it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, you're just going to be dancing your way around the circuit in these conditions, doing the best that you can with what you have, really.
Having said that, some drivers can drive in the rain, and some can't drive quite as well.
And don't overlook the fact the number 1 and 2 cars, these Audi hybrids, are four-wheel drive for short periods. I don't know if it's enough to make a huge difference.
Well, I think in these wet conditions it definitely does. We saw that at Spa, that the hybrid cars definitely had the edge on the Ultras. In these wet conditions, it's that little bit extra four-wheel drive which seems to make all the difference in those crucial braking and turning points.
And added to that, of course, they've got all the drive mechanism over the front axle, which puts more weight on the front, which again gives more grip.
Just that little bit more grip and heat into the tires. And especially at Le Mans, we have quite a few very polished corners. Mulsanne corner, we've seen a lot of cars off there. Arnage is notoriously horrible in the wet. I'm definitely thinking that the newly paved Mulsanne is probably helping them, because in the past we used to get lots of pockets of standing water on the Mulsanne, and I'm hoping that some of that has gone away.
Yeah, especially in the tram lines that Neville was mentioning. 1982, when I first came here to Le Mans, Derek Bell took me around in the Rothmans Porsche, and we were blitzing down that Mulsanne chute. I had no seatbelt. I had a helmet, but no seatbelt, crammed into what passed for a passenger seat in the 956. We're doing 220 miles an hour. Derek took his hands off the wheel, said, "There, that's the tram lines. That's what the trucks do."
Oh my word! I'm not sure if I'd want to be driving that speed at Le Mans without seatbelts.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago, and I'm still all of a flutter. My 30th Le Mans this year, so I'm thoroughly enjoying being here. Neville's been here probably for about 60 years.
Not quite that long, but about 40 odd.
Not saying you're old now.
About 40 odd.
Yeah. The great thing about Le Mans, Liz, you've been here as a race driver, you've been here as a commentator, and I'm sure you've even spectated here.
I haven't actually.
No.
I haven't.
But for most of us, Le Mans is a second home, isn't it?
It is. This is my 8th year at Le Mans, which is crazy. That seems like a long time to me as well. And you know, I do love it every year, whether I'm in a car or commentating. Obviously, driving is preferable, much as I love you guys, but this is certainly the next best thing. Yeah,
I did ask Liz the question on the drive in this morning. Yeah. You know, is there any time during the weekend you wished you were in a car? And she said every second.
It's fairly natural, isn't it?
What do you expect? even in the wet, we still want to be out there. Come on.
Yeah.
But,
right, so number 1 car of Andre Lotterer, pole position car. He's on board it. That is the fastest car on the track at the moment, but has he slowed there, or is it just the camera angle now?
I think it's just the camera
coming
angle.
Up the angle. And Ollie Jarvis, Newmarket's finest. He is in second place at the moment in the number 4 non-hybrid Audi. That's the Ultra. We'll talk about that more during the race, but the Ultras and the Audis are basically the same platform, but the hybrid has the extra boost from the flywheel, which is gathering kinetic energy under braking. Sounds all very complex. Delivers it through the front wheels. Toyota have gone the other route. They deliver their braking through a capacitor into the rear wheels.
And just to give you an idea of how poor these conditions really are, pole time 3 minutes 23. The current best time held by the number 1 Audi is 4 minutes 10.
Yeah, that was close, wasn't it? The status car. That was Alexander Sims on board, and of course he destroyed this car at Spa in qualifying, having a little back into the wall there. But we've got one more commercial break to take. We'll be back to the end of the warm-up. Mark Cole, Liz Halliday and Neville Hay live at Le Mans. You're back at Le Mans with Eurosport. We're live here at La Sarthe, and right from the early hours of this morning, the rain has been falling. It's not letting up at all, as you can see. Conditions quite dreadful for the camera, but Liz, if you're on board a car, you can probably see a lot more than we can.
Well, yes, you can until you're up behind somebody, which is sort of a theory at Le Mans, because you've got 4 classes of racing. You're nearly always going to be coming up on somebody, and the plumes of water coming off the back of these cars are absolutely blinding. You truly can't see it all. We saw earlier Mike Rockenfeller sort of shaking his head and going, "Whoa, it looks tough out there." And I think it was watching his teammate coming up behind another car and knowing that he wouldn't be able to see. Looking at the number 7 car, these Toyotas have just come out on track. They've not been out yet in the morning warm-up. And in fact, Stefan Saracen is out in the number 8 car, and he has never ever driven this car in the wet.
Oh well, Alex Furtz is the car we're looking at the moment, and so much mystery behind these cars. We have no race form for them. They miss Spa, so we just don't know how they're going to perform under race conditions,
and especially under these wet conditions.
And wet conditions. Liz, the wet, you were saying earlier, keep off the curbs.
Yeah, no, the painted curbs are so slippery. It's almost like being in icy conditions. You see some of the drivers just creeping over the really rumply curbs. I think they can just about get away with that. But any of the polished curbs, you want to just stay as far away from them as possible, because it can throw you sideways faster than you can think.
Now, famously, back in the 80s, Nigel Mansell spun out of the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix, and he said he got on the white lines leading into Casino Square, and that's it. What about the white lines here?
Yeah, no, the white lines here will be slippery as well, definitely. And any painted surface is going to react differently to a porous asphalt surface. And, I think that's something as a racing driver you learn very quickly, because if you give it a try, you soon realize it's not a good idea.
So at the moment, Andre Lotterer heads the pack from Dindo Capello. It's Audi's 1 and 2. How perfect is that? Number 4 Audi of Ollie Jarvis in 3rd, and Sebastian Bourdais in the Pescarolo Run Dome in 4th place. But these conditions all a bit meaningless. And how much are people actually learning from all this morning?
Well, I think a lot of the drivers haven't really spent much time in their cars in the wet. It was only a little bit wet in the test day, and certainly in the qualifying sessions we had dry conditions. So I'm guessing that's why most of the cars are still out running a bit, as they're trying to just learn a bit for the wet. We have been forecasted more wet weather for the day, so if we have a wet start to this 24-hour, I suppose this is a learning experience. But at the same time, it is the morning warm-up for a 24-hour race. You want to take it a bit easy.
So in P2, the situation at the moment, it's the level 5 motorsports team of Scott Tucker. They've got their car fastest at the moment, Christophe Bouchou on board the HPD Honda, and right behind him, Warren Hughes, Britain's finest, in the P2 Oreca Murphy prototype, one of the 2 Irish teams here this year. And that's been interesting. It's been many years since Ireland were represented, and suddenly they've got 2 teams. They've got the ADR Delta and this car, the Murphy prototype.
And wouldn't it be a fairy tale if one of them could win their first time here, just to come out and win LMP2? I think they are a contender for that. I think we've got a lot of contenders for LMP2, and that's going to be an exciting group to watch.
Spa, remember, started off wet, and the actual finish was 3 Anglo-Irish cars. Iota won it, but these 2 Irish cars finished 2nd and 3rd. First time out for all of them. Yeah,
and I think it's an interesting year this year, because if you said, can you pick a winner, I think all of us here in the commentary box would say, well, I can pick about 7. And let's see if one of those can actually pull it off.
So, and here's yet another British entry, the JRM number 22 LMP1 Honda. This is the car that David Brabham and Peter Dumbreck have been joined in by Karen Chandok. Karen, Formula 1 driver with Lotus, remember, and here he is making his debut as a rookie. I don't know if he's actually on board the car at the moment. Look, where are we? No, it's Brabs.
All right, yep. Yes, okay, and I know I'm interested to see what he'll have to say about this car in the wet. I know they were really struggling with their tires in the dry, and he said he had quite a few very scary moments, really trying to get some grip in the slow speed corners. But it looks to be handling quite well in the wet to me, so perhaps the wet tire they have they're able to generate a bit more grip in it.
Yeah, well, they're certainly well up the order at the moment. And Neville, this race is not just 4 classes, is it?
No.
It's 6 classes this year, because we've got the zero car running by itself.
Yep.
But we've got the petrol privateers against the factory hybrids.
I think it's wide open. Well, weather inevitably means that races are much, much wider open than they are without it, because there are people who just literally can't drive in the wet.
However, we are seeing that it's starting to dry out a little bit. I know it's still wet, but now we're turning into sort of these greasier conditions. We can see the times keep dropping down. Dindo Capello's just done the fastest sector time in Sector 1. They were already down to a 4:05. It wasn't long ago they were only on a 4:10. The plumes off the back of these cars is coming down a little bit more. So if it stays dry from now until the race, we probably will have a dry start.
Yeah, it is.
I can confidently say that.
Definitely brightening up. We're looking across the 4 chicanes at the Ferris wheel, and it's getting brighter there. We can actually see cloudless sky. We're being bypassed by quite a big storm, I think, coming from the southwest.
Can hear them saying checkered flag. This is the end of the warm-up session. It's been a little bit of a session fraught with excitement and a lot of cars off the track.
A checkered session, yeah.
A checkered session, in fact.
So, Dindo Capello then, top of the pile, doesn't mean a whole lot because no one's yet got below 4 minutes. They are actually running some 40 seconds off the pole pace around this 13.5 kilometre circuit. So Capello's just gone fastest overall, and that's where he may well stay. There he is, just coming down through Indianapolis Kinks.
So I hope you'll all come back and join us for the race start. It could be wet or it could be dry. Who knows at this point? We'll wait and see. We shall do our best to give you the best coverage we can, and we'll try and let the race director speak when he can. It's a little bit tricky for all of us.
Yeah, don't go away, because we are on live until almost 10 o'clock. That's 9 o'clock UK time, no, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock UK time, because we have got some interviews coming up, and then we've got Neville Hay and Chris Parsons, who's just joined us in the cabin to cover the Group C Legends race, and that's going to be interesting. Of course, it never rained in Group C days at Le Mans. It's just the golden era of motorsport. It was always sunny.
Yeah, of course, so it should be extra exciting then. I'm certainly looking forward to watching it in the wet.
Yeah, let's just give us a quick overview then of what anyone might have learned from the warm-up this morning.
Well, certainly everybody's gotten out in the wet, which they haven't done all week. I think everyone's been a little bit blown away by how poor the conditions truly were. Some of the drivers haven't driven these cars in the wet ever, so very useful for them if we have these mixed conditions that we have coming up. Hopefully all the cars are in one piece, ready for the race. That's really what the warm-up's about, is just making sure all the mechanical parts are working and everything's dialed in for the real thing, which is the 24 hours coming up.
And then we've got the Wirtz car just ahead of one of the Audis, and this, we think, may well be the story of the start of the race. Toyota, we think, are going to try and blitz the start, get the bragging rights, the photo opportunities of the first few laps with that number 7 car, which we think could quite possibly be the Hare. The other one, perhaps the Tortoise, with Nakajima on board, because they'd like that to finish for Japan. Oh, we got had a collision between the 2 Rebellions, can you believe? Right in front of us, and one of them spinning out. How did they get that wrong?
Oh no, that's going to be an unhappy team.
It's not the other Rebellion, it's one of the German Lotuses, but it was collected. That and one of the Rebellion cars actually touched there, spinning this car, the 31 car. Let's have another look.
I don't know if they did touch, actually.
I don't think they touched.
I don't think they touched. I think he lost it in front of him.
Yeah. Yes, from sitting here where we were watching, and they were side by side, so it was difficult to see. Great avoidance.
A phenomenal avoidance.
Absolutely no connection between these two.
No, that was impressive.
No connection between these teams.
Very lucky.
One British, one German. And just to reiterate, if you're joining us, Lotus is coming back as a factory in LMP2 next year. So we have even more Lotus branded cars on the grid.
Well, very exciting for Lotus, and great to see them making a force in prototype racing. And now we understand the branding exercise, a very valuable one, in fact.
Yeah, it's been a very, very difficult year for Lotus. Danny Behar, who was the group chairman, he left under somewhat clouded circumstances, and the team and the factory are now trying to regroup, still partially owned by the Malaysians, and let's see how that's going to develop over the years. We do understand production had been stopped at Lotus for a while on the road cars. That presumably that has started again now. And just imagine how many Lotus drivers are coming down from the UK over the past week. I mean, it's been Evoras and it's been Elans and Elites everywhere you look.
And the Lotus Racing Championships are going so strong all across Europe and in the UK. Lotus Cup UK and the Elise Series. It's been really fantastic, and I'm really pleased to see them joining into the top of sports car racing again.
Well, the black clouds, looking out to the west, the southwest, they are building up again, and they're going to dump on us just as we get to the Group C race.
Yeah, that is looking very ominous. I might just hang out and watch that from in here. It's going to be exciting.
Liz Halliday getting excited about Group C.
This is something, isn't it?
About Group C. I want to drive one. They look fabulous.
We might arrange that.
Go and be very nice to Gareth Evans. I'm sure he'll give you a run. Beautiful car, that Mercedes. So we still have cars on the track, so times can still change, as they have just done. Loic Duval in the number 3 Audi has just popped in the fastest lap. Still haven't quite made the 4-minute mark. I mean, one thing about the rain tires is that they move the water, but in themselves they have to build up temperature, get warm, and the car gets quicker the more they do, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely will be getting quicker as the cars go on, and also the track is drying out in places. We've seen some bits that are wetter than others, but there will be drier parts of the track where those wet tires will have more of a chance to heat up. What's interesting is we originally saw the hybrid car up at the top of the time scales, but now we're seeing one of the ultras up there, and we always thought the hybrid would be quicker in the wet, so who knows, really? Let's wait and see what the race brings us.
This is Loic Duval we're riding with at the moment in the number 3 Ultra. These cars so light, and they had to actually add extra ballast to the cars, something like 65 kilos to bring them up to the minimum weight of
like an entire driver.
900 kilos. The Delta, remember, half the weight almost, 475 I think you mentioned.
It is 475 kilos.
Against the 900 kilos of the P1s and P2s. So great aerial shots. You'll notice a huge difference in our coverage this morning compared with Wednesday and Thursday. We've got full cameras on the circuit, we've got the helicopters up, and we just hope that the weather conditions are going to be good enough that the helicopters can stay up.
Information to the pit wall, car 16 will be delivered at Parc Fermé so the team can pick it up. Car 16 will be delivered at Parc Fermé for the team to pick it up.
And that is the Pescarolo car of Stuart Hall and Emanuele Collard that had that fuel pump problem, I believe it was, and a caught fire on the track. So we will try and get some information before the race to see what's happening there, and hopefully they're going to be able to fix it.
Yeah, of course, we wish our colleague Stuart Hall all the best in the race, but if for any reason the car isn't able to start or retires, then we will hope to get him up here and give you another racer's eye view along with Liz. And Johnny Molam is also on the race driver team here.
Yeah, no, it'd be great to have Stuart back up here. Obviously, we'd rather see him finish the race in grand style, so yeah, if sadly that's not the case, we'll get him up here to talk to everybody.
So Audi 1, 2, 3, 4. Nobody below 4 minutes today in these pretty wet conditions. The 2 Toyotas went out very late. They are 5th and 6th. It's the order as it should be. Liz, just looking down to P2, one of your heroes has just popped in the fastest P2 lap.
Well, Lucas Ordóñez, who was so impressive last year, finished 2nd on the podium. He's really showing his pace in all conditions and not had much racing experience. He's one of our top GT Academy winners who had never driven a race car in his life until only a few years ago. Had only played it on the PlayStation, and clearly it's showing that you can take drivers from virtual to reality.
And looking further down, the best of the GTs in 22nd place, Tony Villander popping in a good time there in the 51 Ferrari as the track has come to the P2 cars. Ah, we got some rocket firing going on down there.
I think it might be T-shirts they're firing.
Yeah. They're not lizards people, are they?
I don't know.
Got onto the track. Do you remember that? The lizard catapult launcher from the pit wall?
Yes, I recall.
Firing catapulting T-shirts into the crowd opposite, and people love that. Lizards came here.
I think that's happening again, I think.
Good. Well, Lizards came here, didn't they? Ooh, 7 or 8 years ago, and they won the hearts of everyone at Le Mans immediately because they were just so different. They were so
these are Nissan catapults, though.
Ah, so right.
Let's see. It's a little bit scary.
They all look like Lara Croft, don't they?
Yeah, slightly concerning.
What we want to know is, what are they firing at people?
I think they are T-shirts.
Right.
Pretty confident. Do some investigating for you, Mark.
Well, yes, we will. Oh, we'll send Neville out for that.
Not in the cold and the wet, you won't. Oh dear, no.
So we're just talking about Tony Villander in the that's in the AF course car. He's sharing with no, have we got the right one? 51 car. Sorry, the 51 AF course car that he is sharing with Jimmy Bruni and with Giancarlo Fisichella, and that's good news, isn't it, that 51 car, because that was the car that was crashed on Thursday, rebuilt on Friday, and there we are, top of the pile at the moment.
top of the GTE Pro category here in the wet. So I still think that car could win, and wouldn't that be a fairy tale story for them after the huge accident they suffered in the first practice?
That would indeed. And here we are, here is the 55 car Pro-Am, Joe Kamatias, very mean peddler with Labra for all those years. He and Paul Daniels and Marcus Palatala in the British run at JWA Avila 911 RSR.
Yeah, so at the moment it's the Ferraris and the Porsches that are quickest in the GT category. It's been a very exciting warm-up at Le Mans. Be back with us for the race and stay tuned for the legends.